Detroit Pro full results plus review with the first ever Open versus Classic overall with William Bonac versus Matt Greggo, plus Samson Dauda and Martin Fitzwater pose down. All that, plus much more. What's up, desktopers? Xavier Wills here for Desktop Bodybuilding, and we are back for the 2025 Detroit Pro results review, plus pose downs, plus the world first in bodybuilding. There was a lot that happened at this 2025 Detroit Pro, and shout out to Fuad Abiad and the whole crew for making that a live stream. You got a little bit laggy at the end, but I'm not going to complain whatsoever because the show was lit beautifully, and we're going to get straight into it. So the results are on the screen now. The full top 15 results from 15th up to 1st. It goes Daniel Corman, Adam Millage, Benjamin Rafala. In 12th, we had Bartley Weaver the 4th, who's actually a professional eater. I've mentioned that in other videos as well, and is a top level, probably top 5, top 10 in the world in terms of eater, and he's an IFBB pro, which is insane. 11th, we had Walter Martin. And actually, one other thing about Bartley Weaver. Bartley Weaver had great stage presentation too, and he had a lot of fun and made some huge improvements. So shout out to Bartley Weaver. Walter Martin made some great improvements too, actually a cancer survivor, so shout out to Walter as well. Justin Abbott came in 10th in his pro debut. Very, very thick dude, super impressive. Ralph Farah. This dude has a beautiful physique. I love his front double bicep. I'll have to go through more of his other shots to get a real, I suppose, decider on exactly where, if I would have had him higher or not. But love the dude's shape, and I love to see this sort of talent down as far as 9th in the placings. Chris Miller in 8th. The dude's just big, has some gnarly grain and conditioning. 7th was Carlos Thomas Jr., which a lot of people will be wondering about how Carlos did in this show. Did he come in harder? Where did he place? Was he in the top group? He wasn't in the top group, unfortunately, here after such high hopes for the Arnold Classic and then this show once again. But this will lower the expectation for Carlos going into his next show, and he still has all the bubbly muscle that he has always had. It's just that he needs to bring it in condition, and whatever he needs to do to get that, as long as he can, health permitting as well, because he does have ulcerative colitis, which can cause, water retention issues and all that sort of stuff. So Carlos may have even been harder here or lower body fat here, but perhaps, was holding some fluid. It's hard to say being a one-day show. So Carlos, I don't know if we're going to see him in more shows this year in the immediate future, maybe later in the year, maybe not until 2026. We'll have to wait and see, but I'd love to get Carlos on a podcast or on for an interview and I suppose dive into his prep somewhat as well. And now he's a part of IFBB AMA. We may get the chance to do that on there or maybe on Desktop Bodybuilding. In 6th place, we had Justin Musial as well, who had great skin texture, great conditioning, a few issues with the midsection, which threw off his aesthetics a little bit. I think Ian Valier said he had some sort of herniations or something as well. So if he can get that fixed, he's going to definitely climb up the places and be in top 5s of some shows. 5th place was Aaron Gooley, who probably bought his best package to date. Canadian IFBB Pro, a lot of muscle. Just needs to keep improving and keep getting more of that detail and etching that out, more and more separation, and he'll continue to place well. 4th place, Ron Gordon. Ron Gordon, 3rd place last year in Detroit. I believe he's a Detroit native, actually, originally. Maybe he still lives there currently, but I thought he lived out in LA. I'm not too sure. But Ron looked great once again. Maybe not quite as conditioned as last year. Maybe a little bit bigger than last year, though. Probably a physique that maybe would have, I don't know if it would have beaten last year or not. It probably would have, but I'd have to see them side by side to decide that. But shout out to Ron Gordon, once again getting a good placing at the Detroit Pro. 3rd place, James Hollingshead. Much, much better than the Arnold Classic. Now, the Arnold Classic was only I don't know how many weeks ago now, but maybe about 6 or maybe a month. I'm not even too sure. Probably a month or so now, actually. James improved a lot because he added, I don't know how many pounds to his physique. Fuad was saying it looked like about 20 pounds. I heard about 12. It was a big difference. He looked revitalized. The only thing I'd say is maybe he's not quite as sharp as the Arnold Classic, which it was a trade-off. They weren't going to be able to get, 12 pounds bigger and more conditioned. That's just very unlikely. But the conditioning was comparable because James's muscle was pushing against the skin more. He filled out. It just worked better for him. So shout out to James Hollingshead for turning around so quick, and shout out to Stefan as well. And Stefan even admitted that he made some errors with James for the Arnold. So that's taking, the good with the bad, because he's got obviously a lot of good praise lately. He took that on the chin, and then he brought James back in better. So I hope James and Stefan work together for shows in the future as well, because I think with a fully nailed prep, he could do some big things. Second place, Samson Harati, fellow UK, fellow Brit, as James Hollingshead is, looked phenomenal. He had a lot of pop to his physique and sort of showed up some of the weaknesses in James's physique in terms of like the midsection and the pop to the abs, because Samson has that in spades. So I think that sort of worked well for Samson, and standing next to James in that regard worked well, because your eyes were definitely drawn to him in that way. Now, James, you could be drawn to for sure because of the sheer mass. And in certain shots, when James was sitting on those shots, you're like going, oh yeah, James. But when Samson was moving between shots and he has that pop to his physique, I was saying to myself, Samson. So I think James, if he can keep his physique through his transitions, looking maybe more sharp and just getting straight into the poses and holding him for a long period of time, I think that would work for James better on his style of physique. But Samson, shout out to him, looked phenomenal. And our eventual winner, William Bonac, what can you say? The dude keeps getting better. He brought his legs back bigger than they were before. So, which is crazy. No one does that into their 40s. A lot of density, a lot of pop. Very, very impressive showing here from William Bonac. And he had a bit of a dip, a bit of a lull in his career. But he sees that money and he's come back, and he won $25,000 in the Olympia qualification for 2025. So shout out to William Bonac on winning that. And then in a world bodybuilding first, he went head-to-head with Matt Greggo, who was the Classic Physique winner. And I'll quickly go to that as well. Here's the Classic Physique results, and here's the top 5. In 5th place, we had Jack Eagles. 4th place, Alex Kent. 3rd place, Daniel Fabode. 2nd place, Wesley Vissers. And 1st place, Matt Greggo. It came down to Wesley Vissers and Matt Greggo. Matt Greggo got the nod in a very, very close show. I wouldn't have been displeased with either of these guys winning. I think the legs is what won it for Greggo. I still probably would have had Vissers winning the upper body, but overall, I think, yeah, a very worthy winner in Matt Greggo. And he showed why he's a worthy winner too, because standing next to William Bonac and posing down with him, he looks surprisingly really good, because maybe it's partly because of his structure, I suppose the silhouette of the physique as well. But when you really break it down, and if you probably put them through more rounds, you would have seen the thickness difference. And you can see the thickness difference clearly watching this, but I've got to say, I was very, very impressed with Matt Greggo going through that and looking as good as he did. And that excites me, because it leads me to think that Matt Greggo should definitely go to the Open at some stage, whether it's this year he dips his toe in after the Olympia maybe and does a show, or maybe before. But yeah, I would definitely love to see like Matt Greggo, Wesley Vissers, all those guys at least do an Open show, fill up after maybe doing a Classic Olympia or a Classic show, come in 10 pounds bigger, do the C-bum method, and you might win yourself an Open Olympia qualification for 2026. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts on that are in the comments below. We had 2 guys that were obviously right up there in the Olympia. One of them was at the very top last year in Samson Dauda and Martin Fitzwater, who finished 4th at last year's Olympia. So 2 top 4 in the world bodybuilders posing down in this one. And I've got to say, Martin, firstly, we'll go to Martin. Martin looked phenomenal. He looked really, really good. I mean, he's 6 weeks out of the Pittsburgh Pro, which is the first ever Pittsburgh Pro, where there's $100,000 on the line. He's going to be head to head with Derek Lunsford, your Arnold Classic champion, who actually beat Samson Dauda. And yeah, I think Martin is right on track, because the conditioning is really in the right spot where it needs to be at 6 weeks out. The waist is tight. That was one thing I'm like, I hope Martin keeps his waist nice and tight. It looks tighter than ever. He's crossing his T's, dotting his I's, and I think we're going to see an all-time best Martin, which could beat a Derek Lunsford theoretically. And you got Samson Dauda as well, who's, you know, taking a bit of a break, having some downtime, per se, but looking absolutely insane. And Samson is able to, you know, when he backs things off and then he pushes things up again, that's when he makes his big improvements. So very, very encouraging what we're seeing here from both Samson and also Martin Fitzwater. And shout out to them for getting their shirts off and, well, Martin getting his pants off as well and showing that physique, because it adds more to the show. And really, this show had things that, other shows don't. And one of those things is including phenomenal lighting. So shout out to Fuad Abiad, shout out to Gilco Productions, who I believe set up the lighting as well, and shout out for all they did, because they've actually had, you know, people vote on who to win between William Bonac and Matt Greggo through, you know, online vote. People at home was able to do it. People at the contest were able to do it. And it added something. The other thing is William Bonac won between the Open and Classic Physique. Just a heads up, and you could sort of see that. Anyway, that's it for this one. Xavier Wills, Desktop Bodybuilding. We are out.